Stop scrolling. This one detonated the sports internet overnight. Jamie Foxx didn't whisper, didn't subtweet, didn't play nice. He went straight for the jugular, calling out Browns insider Mary Kay Cabot over what fans are calling a manufactured narrative about Shedeur Sanders. If you thought you'd seen it all, think again. This is Spill News, where secrets explode before your eyes. Names are flying. Jamie Foxx, Deion Coach Prime Sanders, the Cleveland Browns, and a rookie quarterback suddenly trapped in the middle of a media firestorm. One side says mentorship, the other says spin, and the internet couldn't believe it, and you won't either. So ask yourself this: if you were in this position, same pressure, same spotlight, same whispers behind closed doors, what would you do? Stay quiet or finally snap? Because tonight, the story isn't just about football. It's about power, access, and who really controls a narrative when cameras are off. Screenshots started circulating. Timelines stopped adding up. And a single comment, "Leave him alone," hit harder than any press conference ever could. Blogs lit up. Group chats exploded. Fans picked sides in seconds. And just when everyone thought it was finished, another voice stepped in and shifted everything. Right here, now, the story didn't begin with a headline. It began with whispers, with side comments on podcasts, with quiet quotes that sounded harmless if you didn't know how the league works. For years, Mary Kay Cabot had been a familiar voice around the Browns, a trusted insider with access most fans could only imagine. She was a reporter who spoke the language of front offices, the one who knew when to soften a blow and when to frame a loss as a learning moment. That credibility mattered, because when you build a reputation like that, people don't question you. They nod, they accept, they move on. On the other side of this story stands Shedeur Sanders, a name that carried weight long before he ever wore an NFL jersey. He grew up in locker rooms, not playgrounds. Film rooms, not living rooms. His childhood soundtrack wasn't cartoons. It was coaches arguing about coverages and protections. And above all that stood Shedeur Sanders, Coach Prime, a father who didn't just teach confidence, but demanded preparation. For Shedeur, football IQ wasn't something you learned after getting drafted. It was something you breathed. That background made him polarizing. Some loved the swagger. Others waited for the moment they could say it was all hype. The Browns' offseason was supposed to be simple. A four-way quarterback competition. Open reps, best man wins. That's what fans were told. That's what insiders repeated. And early on, Mary Kay echoed that messaging, presenting it as transparency, as proof the organization was being fair. But as camp rolled on, small details started to feel off. Practice reports didn't match preseason usage. The words competition didn't align with the reps being handed out. And quietly, fans began to notice that Shedeur was always framed as a learner, never the threat. That framing is where the tension truly started. Not with a single article, but with a pattern. Every time Shedeur showed flashes, the language around him felt cautious, controlled, as if praise needed permission. Meanwhile, veterans were described with warmth, patience, and understanding. The tone difference wasn't obvious at first, but over time it stacked up. A sentence here, a quote there, enough to make people ask a dangerous question. Who is this narrative really protecting? As weeks passed, Shedeur's name became less about performance and more about perception. Was he ready? Did he understand pro concepts? Did he need more time? Those questions followed him everywhere. Even when the tape suggested otherwise, fans watching closely saw poise. Quick reads, calm feet in collapsing pockets. But the public storyline remained hesitant, almost skeptical. And that's when frustration started boiling over, not just from fans, but from voices outside Cleveland who weren't tied to access or locker room politics. Jamie Foxx wasn't supposed to be part of this story, at least not on paper. He wasn't a beat reporter or former coach. He was a Hollywood heavyweight, an actor known for playing quarterbacks on screen, a lifelong football fan who watched the league with emotion, not obligation. That distance mattered, because when he reacted to the narrative surrounding Shedeur, it didn't feel calculated. It felt personal, like someone watching a familiar movie play out again, where talent gets questioned not because of evidence, but because it doesn't fit the script. The moment Jamie Foxx spoke up, everything shifted. Not because he broke news, but because he challenged the tone. His words were short, sharp, and impossible to ignore. They cut through paragraphs of carefully crafted reporting with one simple demand. Stop it. That wasn't analysis. That was frustration. And it landed because fans have been thinking the same thing, just without a microphone big enough to echo it. Then came the quiet confirmation that made the situation explode. Shedeur Sanders didn't rant. He didn't call a press conference. He didn't argue point by point. He simply acknowledged Jamie Foxx, publicly, calmly, with a gratitude that spoke volumes. In that moment, this stopped being about opinion. It became about respect. A father seeing his son's journey reduced to a storyline he didn't recognize. A coach watching years of preparation get minimized into a convenient explanation for organizational decisions. Suddenly, old clips resurfaced. Interviews where Shedeur talked about his preparation. Practice footage fans had archived. Quotes that now read differently in hindsight. The internet did what it always does when it smells inconsistency. It dug. It compared. It questioned. And as timelines were laid side by side, the gap between what was reported and what was witnessed became harder to ignore. Mary Kay's defenders argued experience, access, long-standing relationships. They said this was just how teams talk, how development works, how rookies are handled. But critics weren't attacking her resume. They were attacking the narrative, the suggestion that Shedeur's growth was sudden, that his understanding came only after extra help, that his readiness was a surprise rather than an expectation. To fans who had followed his career, that sounded less like reporting and more like revision. This wasn't about one article anymore. It was about trust, about whether insiders were documenting reality or shaping it, about how often organizations get the benefit of the doubt while players carry the questions. And as the noise grew louder, the story began slipping out of anyone's control. Because once fans believe a narrative is being managed, every new detail feels suspect. In group chats, the language turned sharper. Screenshots were highlighted. Phrases were underlined. People started asking why certain details were emphasized while others were brushed aside. They asked who benefited from patience narratives and who paid the price for them. Some fans remembered past seasons, past quarterbacks, past promises that never quite matched outcomes. This felt familiar, and familiarity bred anger. Not the loud kind, but the simmering kind that waits for a spark. By the end of that week, the lines were drawn. Jamie Foxx on one side, speaking from the gut. Coach Prime standing firm in quiet solidarity. Fans armed with clips and memories. And Mary Kay, whether intentionally or not, positioned as the face of a story many no longer believed. The season moved on. Games were played. Stats were logged. But the tension lingered in the background, unresolved and growing. There was also a silence that followed, the kind that usually comes before something breaks. Reporters stopped asking certain questions. Players avoided certain topics. Everyone seemed aware that one wrong quote could tip the balance. That silence didn't calm things. It sharpened them, turning curiosity into expectation, expectation into pressure, pressure into inevitability. Behind closed doors, conversations continued. Phones buzzed. Sources hinted. Confidence shifted. Everyone sensed momentum changing, and nobody wanted to be caught on the wrong side when it finally turned. Because buried beneath all of it was a deeper question no one wanted to answer out loud. If Shedeur had been trusted from the start, how different would this story look? And if the narrative had been honest from day one, would anyone be scrambling to defend it now? That question hung in the air, unanswered, heavy, waiting. But what came next, even his enemies didn't expect. And the countdown had already begun quietly for everyone watching. What came next didn't arrive as a press release or a carefully worded statement. It came like a leak in a locked room, slow at first, then impossible to stop. Anonymous screenshots began circulating in fan forums and private discords, supposedly showing internal conversations that painted a very different picture from the polished narrative fans had been fed. Messages claimed there was never a true quarterback competition, that decisions had been made weeks before camp even started. No logos, no official stamps, just grainy text bubbles and timestamps that immediately set the internet on fire. According to these leaked messages, coaches were less concerned with readiness and more focused on optics. One line that went viral read, "We can't start him yet. It changes the room." Another claimed, "Veterans first. Rookies wait." Were they real? Nobody could verify them. But the timing was brutal, because they surfaced just as Shedeur's on-field performances began silencing doubts. The contrast between what fans were seeing on Sundays and what they were reading online was jarring. And that gap is where scandal thrives. Then came the so-called internal memo, a document shared by an unnamed source claiming to outline talking points for media engagement. The memo allegedly encouraged emphasizing development, patience, and mentorship in all public discussions of the quarterback situation. Again, no confirmation. But fans didn't need confirmation. They needed plausibility. And after weeks of carefully framed commentary, this felt plausible enough to ignite outrage. Because nothing screams transparency like a document telling you exactly what words to use. Sports blogs ran with it immediately. Headlines screamed about spin. Podcasts dissected every sentence. Twitter turned into a courtroom, with timelines acting as evidence, and old quotes replayed like surveillance footage. One viral tweet summed it up perfectly. Funny how learning curve only applies when you don't want to admit you were wrong. That tweet alone pulled millions of views, and suddenly the narrative was no longer controlled by insiders. It belonged to the crowd. Mary Kay found herself at the center of that storm, not because she leaked anything, but because her previous reporting was now being reread under a microscope. Quotes that once sounded neutral were now labeled as defensive. Phrases like "extra time in the film room" were mocked relentlessly. Fans joked that apparently the magic happened overnight, conveniently after public pressure mounted. Sarcasm flooded comment sections. "Wow! Amazing how development works when you're finally forced to play the guy," one fan wrote. Must have been that legendary Tuesday film session. And then there were the reactions from within the league, or at least those claiming to be. Anonymous accounts with credible-looking bios began posting cryptic comments. "This happens more than you think." "Rookies don't get patience unless the story needs it." Media access comes with expectations. None of these posts proved anything, but together, they created an atmosphere where skepticism felt justified. In scandal culture, perception doesn't need proof. It needs momentum. Jamie Foxx's involvement escalated from a moment to a movement. Clips of his reaction were stitched with old scenes from any given Sunday, blurring fiction and reality in a way the internet loves. Memes compared Shedeur to Willie Beeman, overlooked until it was too late to deny his talent. It was funny, but it was also pointed, because behind the humor was a serious accusation that the system rewards comfort over competence until it's embarrassed into change. Coach Prime remained measured, but his silence spoke loudly. He didn't argue details. He didn't refute reports line by line. Instead, he let his past words resurface organically. Interviews where he talked about teaching his son protections at age 10. Clips where he explained how preparation beats opportunity. Fans stitched these together into montages that told a clear story without commentary. The message was simple. This didn't start in Cleveland, and it didn't need fixing. Then came the alleged late-night call. According to a widely shared rumor, a high-level conversation took place between media figures and team representatives after Shedeur's breakout performance. The purpose? Damage control. Again, unconfirmed. But the details were specific enough to feel real. Talking points discussed. Tone adjustments suggested. Emphasis shifted. Whether true or not, the rumor spread like fact because it fit the pattern fans believed they were witnessing. Even former players began chiming in, carefully choosing words that said everything without saying anything. Sometimes organizations don't see what's right in front of them, one retired quarterback said on a radio show. And sometimes the media helps them save face. He never named names. He didn't have to. Everyone knew exactly who he was talking about. The implication landed harder than any accusation. As the scandal ballooned, Mary Kay's credibility became a debate topic rather than an assumption. Supporters defended her experience, arguing that access journalism is complicated, that insiders walk a line between information and relationships. Critics fired back, saying that line had been crossed long ago. The phrase PR with a press badge began trending in brown circles, a brutal label that stuck because it echoed a fear many fans already had. Meanwhile, Shedeur kept playing, calm, efficient, unbothered. Each completion felt like a rebuttal, each touchdown a counter-argument. Commentators struggled to reconcile his performance with the narrative they repeated for months. You could hear it in their voices, that slight hesitation before praising him fully, as if waiting for permission that never came. That hesitation didn't go unnoticed. Fans clipped it, slowed it down, shared it, because once trust cracks, every pause feels intentional. The alleged leaked tape dropped late one night, a short audio clip claiming to capture a behind-the-scenes conversation about managing expectations. The audio was muffled, voices indistinct. Experts debated its authenticity within minutes. Some called it fake. Others said it sounded real enough. But by morning, the damage was done. Headlines weren't asking if it was real. They were asking what it meant. And meaning is where reputations live or die. Sarcasm became the language of the moment. Funny how the mentor only shows up after the rookie wins games, one commentator joked. Because nothing says belief like benching talent until Twitter forces your hand. Laughter masked anger, but the anger was there, deep and collective. Fans weren't just mad about football decisions. They were mad about being talked down to. Just when it seemed like the story had peaked, another name surfaced in whispered speculation. Someone with even more influence. Someone who hadn't been mentioned publicly yet. A figure whose involvement would explain the sudden shifts, the softened language, the urgency to reshape the story. Nobody said it outright. They didn't need to. The implication alone was enough to send the internet spiraling again. And just when everyone thought it was over, another name came up, and everything tilted in a direction no one was prepared for. The aftermath didn't explode all at once. It unraveled, slowly, quietly, like a thread pulled from a sweater that suddenly leaves everything exposed. In the days after that unnamed figure entered the conversation, the energy shifted. Reporters adjusted their tone. Analysts started choosing words more carefully. Praise for Shedeur became safer, more generic, less specific, not because he wasn't earning it, but because specificity now felt dangerous. And when praise feels dangerous, you know something deeper is happening. Behind the scenes, sources whisper about tension, not shouting matches or dramatic walkouts, but discomfort, awkward meetings, long pauses on conference calls, the kind of silence that tells you people are rethinking positions they once defended loudly. According to speculation circulating online, some media figures were quietly advised to let the story breathe. Others allegedly received friendly reminders about relationships, access, and future opportunities. Nothing written, nothing official, just the unspoken rules everyone in the business understands. Mary Kay's presence became noticeably quieter. Fewer strong declarations, more neutral phrasing. To some, it looked like professionalism. To others, it looked like retreat. Fans dissected every appearance, every article, every sentence. Even silence became a statement. And once the audience decides you're part of the story, there's no such thing as neutral anymore. Every move is read for meaning, whether you intend it or not. Meanwhile, the pressure on Shedeur intensified in a different way. No longer doubted, he was now scrutinized. Every mistake magnified. Every missed throw replayed endlessly. The narrative shifted from is he ready to can he live up to it? That shift is subtle but brutal, because doubt challenges you to prove yourself. Expectation punishes you for being human. And through it all, Shedeur remained composed, giving the same calm answers, refusing to feed the chaos swirling around his name. Coach Prime, watching from a distance, shows restraint. He spoke about focus, about staying grounded, about letting performance speak louder than noise. But those close to him hinted at frustration, not rage, but disappointment. The kind that comes from seeing hard-earned growth reduced to a storyline convenient for someone else. He had spent years building his son's foundation, not for credit, but for survival in moments exactly like this. And now that preparation was being tested publicly, relentlessly. Fans began asking harder questions. If this could happen to Shedeur, who else had it happen to? How many careers were quietly shaped by narratives no one challenged? How often did development become a cover story for hesitation, and patience a shield for indecision? Those questions spill beyond Cleveland, beyond football. They touch the nerve about power, storytelling, and who gets to define reality in billion-dollar industries. Some commentators tried to close the chapter, urging everyone to move on. But stories like this don't end on command. They linger because they tap into something unresolved. And even as headlines faded, the impact remained. Trust, once cracked, doesn't magically reseal. It changes how people listen, how they read, how they interpret. That change is permanent. There were rumors of internal reviews, of quiet conversations about messaging strategies going forward. Nothing dramatic. No firings. No public apologies. Just subtle adjustments that told observers everything they needed to know. When organizations start changing how they speak, it's rarely because nothing went wrong. It's because they learn the audience is watching more closely than before. For Mary Kay, the road ahead looked different. Not over, not destroyed, but altered. Credibility isn't a switch that flips off. It erodes, grain by grain, under scrutiny. Some fans forgave, others didn't. And in the age of receipts and replays, first impressions are hard to outrun. She remained a respected voice to many, but no longer an unquestioned one. That distinction matters more than any headline. Jamie Foxx faded back into his own world, his point made without a press tour or follow-up explanation. He didn't need one. His words had already done what they were meant to do. They disrupted comfort. They validated frustration. They reminded people that sometimes the loudest truths come from outside the system, not within it. And Shedeur, he kept playing, kept learning, kept adjusting. His growth became undeniable, not because someone finally acknowledged it, but because it refused to be ignored. Over time, the noise softened, replaced by something rarer and more powerful. Expectation earned through performance, the very thing the narrative once denied him. As the season moved forward, the scandal transformed into a case study, a reminder of how stories are built, protected, challenged, and sometimes dismantled. It wasn't about villains and heroes anymore. It was about awareness, about fans realizing their role and questioning what they're told, about media figures understanding that access doesn't guarantee immunity, about players learning that talent alone isn't always enough to control the story around you. In the end, no grand revelation tied everything together. No single leak proved every suspicion. Real life rarely offers that kind of closure. Instead, there was something quieter, more unsettling. A collective understanding that not everything presented as truth is complete. That narratives can be shaped, softened, redirected. And that once you see that process up close, you never quite watch the game the same way again. The cameras kept rolling. The league kept moving. New controversies took center stage, but this one left a mark, not because of how loudly it burned, but because of what it revealed in the shadows. And as for those shadows, they didn't disappear. They just shifted, waiting for the next moment, the next voice, the next story brave enough to pull at the thread again. She vanished without a trace, but the secret stayed. Let's be real for a second. This wasn't just another football debate. This was a moment that peeled back the curtain on how narratives are built, protected, and sometimes forced down the audience's throat. Jamie Foxx didn't need insider access. Coach Prime didn't need a press conference. All it took was one sentence, one acknowledgement, and suddenly the entire story cracked wide open. That should make everyone watching pause. Because if this can happen to Shedeur Sanders with cameras on him, fans watching, receipts everywhere, imagine how many other stories never get challenged. Imagine how many players get labeled, delayed, or doubted because the narrative was easier than the truth. That's why this moment matters. Not just for the Browns, not just for Shedeur, but for how we consume sports, media, and inside information moving forward. So now it's on you. What do you think really happened here? Was this honest reporting that fans overreacted to? Or was this a carefully managed storyline that finally got exposed once the performance didn't match the excuse? Did Jamie Foxx cross a line by speaking out? Or did he say what a lot of people were afraid to say out loud? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to see every angle, every take, every disagreement. And if you're tired of surface-level headlines and watered-down explanations, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Because stories like this don't end quietly, they evolve. Turn on notifications too, because we're staying on top of every twist, every reaction, and every new development surrounding Shedeur Sanders and the Browns. Share this video with someone who still believes every insider report without question. This story isn't over. Not even close.